All right, get ready to dive deep. Today it's the XDC Network, and wow, are they ambitious.
No, absolutely.
We're talking about a blockchain platform that's literally trying to bridge the gap between traditional finance, like Wall Street, and the wild world of decentralized tech.
It's a big goal, for sure.
Big goal, tons of potential, and a whole mountain of articles, analyses, and even some pretty hardcore technical deep dives that we dug up.
Well, someone had to do it.
Had to try to figure out what makes XDC tick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See if they're actually living up to all the hype.
And one of the first things that really jumped out at me, and this is something we see in a lot of the articles, is their laser focus on trade finance.
Oh, yeah. That's a sector that's just ripe for disruption.
Absolutely. We're talking about everything from global payments to supply chains, all these super complex processes that are practically begging for a blockchain makeover.
And that's where XDC's hybrid approach comes in.
This is the part where I need you to break it down for me. They're combining the public blockchain, which is all about transparency, with a private blockchain, which is more about privacy and control.
Right, like having the best of both worlds, kind of.
Okay, that makes sense in theory, but how does this hybrid thing actually give them an edge in trade finance? I saw some stuff about faster transactions and lower cost, but I'm curious about the specifics.
Okay, picture this. A typical cross-border transaction, it's a mess, right? Multiple middlemen, paperwork galore, delays. All of that adds up.
Oh, for sure. Time is money.
Exactly. XDC wants to clean that up by automating the whole thing on the blockchain. You get rid of some of those middlemen, you get real-time tracking, and boom, things get way more efficient.
So potentially we're talking about shaving off days, maybe even weeks from the process.
Potentially, yeah. And significantly cutting costs at the same time. That's a huge win for businesses.
It sounds amazing, but how does XDC stack up against other platforms that are also targeting this space? I mean, Ripple, Stellar, they're all in the game.
True, but XDC's got a few key differences. That hybrid model we talked about. That's tailored for the specific needs of businesses dealing with sensitive financial data.
Okay, I'm seeing the appeal there.
Plus, they've got this consensus mechanism called Shinfin Delegated Proof of Stake, or XDPOS, if you want to sound cool.
I'll stick with XDPOS. Sounds way more techy.
It's designed for speed and efficiency. Think way more transactions per second than the old systems, and way more energy efficient than those proof-of-work chains like Bitcoin.
So it's not just about being a blockchain, it's about being the right blockchain for the job, and XDC seems to have nailed that for trade finance.
Yeah, they really have. Oh, and one more thing. They're compliant with the ISO 2022 standard.
I'm going to need a translation on that one. What's so special about this ISO thing?
Basically, ISO 2022 is like the universal language of finance. All the big institutions use it.
So XDC can basically talk directly to the banks, no translator needed.
Exactly. Seamless integration with existing financial systems. That's a huge advantage when you're trying to bridge the gap between old school finance and blockchain.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And it probably explains why XDC's been getting so much attention from businesses looking to, step up their game.
Right. And speaking of attention, remember that price surge XDC had recently? Up to almost 14 cents?
Oh, yeah. That was hard to miss. Do you think it's just hype, or is there some real substance behind it? Some of the articles we read had analysts predicting it could hit 18 cents, maybe even higher.
It's probably a mix of things, to be honest. Growing awareness is definitely a factor. And remember, those pilot programs they've been running with big companies, the results have been really promising.
So people are seeing real-world applications, not just promises.
Exactly. Plus, they've been making some strategic partnerships. Like, there's this collaboration with a foundation in Singapore that's a pretty big deal.
Makes sense. Asia's a massive market for finance and trade.
Huge. Having a strong presence there could be a game changer for XDC. It's like they're setting themselves up to be a major player on the global stage.
Okay, so we've got this hybrid blockchain, a laser focus on trade finance, crazy fast transactions, a price that's turning heads, and it sounds like they're playing their cards right in terms of partnerships and global expansion. Am I missing anything?
Well, there are always challenges.
Right, it can't all be smooth sailing. What are some of the roadblocks they might hit?
Regulation is a big one. It's a bit of a wild west out there in terms of blockchain and finance. Different countries have different rules, and it's constantly changing.
So navigating that whole regulatory maze is going to be crucial for XDC.
Absolutely. And then there's the competition.
Oh, right. It's a crowded space.
Very crowded. We talked about Ripple and Stellar, but there are tons of other players out there. XDC has to keep innovating and proving that they've got something unique to offer.
And of course, we can't forget about the whole volatility thing.
Ah, yes, the joys of the crypto market. Up one day, down the next.
Even if XDC does everything right, a sudden market crash could still throw a wrench in the works.
That's the reality, unfortunately. It's a risk that comes with the territory.
Okay, so we've got a good handle on the big picture, what XDC is trying to do, how they're doing it, the potential benefits, the risks. But before we dive into the really nitty-gritty technical stuff, tell me about the people behind this whole thing. Who are the masterminds driving this innovation?
Okay, so it's not like some shadowy group of anonymous crypto wizards, if that's what you're thinking.
Oh, a little bit of mystery would be cool, but okay, go on.
XDC is actually led by a team of very real, very experienced professionals. The founders, Atul Kakade, Ritesh Kakad, and Peter Yale, they come from the worlds of finance, blockchain, and tech.
So they actually understand how to apply this stuff in the real world, not just in theory?
Exactly. And that shows in their whole approach. They're solving problems, not just building tech for the sake of building tech. It's about making a real impact.
Okay, so they've got the brains, the experience, the vision. Now I'm ready to get into the nuts and bolts. Let's talk about the engine that powers this network, the Shinfin Delegated Proof of Stake.
XDPOS, yeah. That's a big part of what makes XDC so fast and efficient. We're talking thousands of transactions per second.
Which is kind of essential for, actual real-time financial applications.
Absolutely. And way, way more environmentally friendly than those proof-of-work systems like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So they're scoring points on sustainability too.
Okay, I'm starting to see why they went with XDPOS. It just seems like the perfect fit for what they're trying to do. But how does it actually work? Can you give me the ELI 5 version?
Okay, imagine it like this. You got token holders, right? And they get to vote for representatives, kind of like electing officials. These representatives are called masternodes, and they're the ones actually validating transactions and keeping the network secure.
So it's like a blockchain democracy.
Kind of, yeah. And because they don't have to go through that whole energy-intensive mining process like Bitcoin, it's just way faster and more scalable.
Okay, that makes sense. And it explains how they can handle so many transactions at once. But what about security? I mean, we're talking about financial transactions here, right? That's got to be a top priority.
Oh, it absolutely is. Security is built right into the way XDPOS works. Those masternodes we talked about, they have a big incentive to keep everything running smoothly and honestly.
Because their own stake is on the line, right?
Exactly. If they try to cheat or mess things up, they stand to lose a lot. So everyone's motivated to play by the rules.
Clever. It's like a self-regulating system. Okay, so they've got the speed, the efficiency, the security. What about the XDC token itself? What role does that play in all of this?
The XDC token is the fuel that powers the whole network.
Literally the fuel.
Okay, not literally, but you get the idea. You use it to pay transaction fees, you can stake it to help secure the network, and it's also the currency of the XDC ecosystem.
So it's got real utility. It's not just some speculative token that people are hoping will moon someday.
Right. Its value is tied to the actual adoption and usage of the XDC network.
Okay, so the more businesses and people use XDC for their trade finance stuff, the more demand there will be for the token. That makes sense. But is there a limited supply of tokens? Can they just create more whenever they want?
Nope. There's a fixed supply. 37.9 billion XDC tokens. That helps to control inflation and, hopefully keep the price stable.
Okay, that makes sense. It sounds like they've thought this through carefully. But it's not just about the token, right? What about the future? What's on the roadmap for XDC?
Oh, they've got big plans. One thing they're working on is making XDC compatible with other blockchains, like Ethereum.
Ah, that cross-chain compatibility thing we talked about before.
Yep, that would open up a ton of possibilities for developers and users.
Imagine being able to move assets back and forth between different blockchains seamlessly. Okay, yeah, that would be huge. It's like connecting all these different blockchain islands into one big interconnected world. But what about specific applications? What are they targeting beyond just making trade finance smoother?
They're exploring a lot of cool stuff, especially in the world of tokenization.
Okay, I keep hearing about this tokenization thing, but I'm still a little fuzzy on the details.
Imagine taking real-world assets, like real estate or even artwork, and turning them into digital tokens on the blockchain.
So instead of owning like a physical deed to a house, you'd own a token that represents your ownership.
Exactly. And that token can be traded easily and securely on the blockchain. XDC is building the platform to make that whole process possible.
Okay, that's starting to click. It's like bringing all these traditionally illiquid assets into the digital world where they can be traded more easily.
Exactly. It could open up a ton of opportunities for investors and businesses.
Wow, that's a lot to take in, but in a good way. It's exciting to see how blockchain is evolving and how XDC is pushing the boundaries.
Absolutely. And that's just the beginning. There's a whole lot more to explore in the XDC ecosystem.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've talked about XDC's mission, their tech, the potential benefits, and the risks involved. But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Stay tuned because we're just getting started.
Back again. I'm still wrapping my head around all this stuff with XDC, like that XDPS thing, how it's so efficient, and the fact that they can practically talk directly to banks with that ISO 2022 compliance.
Yeah, they've really thought this through. It's like they've got this master plan to blend cutting-edge tech with, real-world business smarts. They're not just playing around. They're solving real problems for a very specific industry. And, well, it's working, right? Both businesses and investors are taking notice.
Last time we were comparing XDC to some of the other big players like Ripple and Stellar. They're all doing blockchain stuff, but in their own way. What I'm finding fascinating is how XDC is like carving out their own niche.
It's all about finding the right fit. Like Ripple's made some serious headway with banks by focusing on those faster cross-border payments. And Stellar, they've got a strong hold on micropayments and remittances, especially in parts of the world where traditional banking is kind of a mess.
So it's not like a winner-takes-all situation in the blockchain world. There's room for multiple players, each with their own specialty.
Exactly. And XDC's specialty, that focus on trade finance with their hybrid blockchain and those crazy fast transactions, well, it's definitely turning heads. They're not trying to replace the whole system. They're making it better, smoother, more efficient.
And that ISO 2022 thing we talked about, that's a big part of why they can integrate so well, right? It's like they've got a backstage pass to the global financial system.
Huge advantage. They're speaking the language that banks already understand. No need to start from scratch. It makes adoption so much easier.
Okay, so we've covered the tech, the focus, the partnerships, but let's talk about something that still kind of blows my mind. Real-world asset tokenization. I mean, it sounds like science fiction, but XDC is actually making it happen.
It's a game changer, potentially. Imagine owning a piece of a skyscraper, or even like a famous painting, through a token on the blockchain. It opens up investment opportunities that were basically off limits to most people before, and trading these assets way faster, cheaper, and more transparent.
It sounds almost too good to be true. What's the catch?
There are always challenges. Like regulation is still a big question mark. Governments are scrambling to figure out how to classify and regulate these tokenized assets. Taxes, investor protection, fraud prevention, it's a whole new world.
So the tech is there, but the rules of the game are still being written.
Yep, and that can create some uncertainty. And then there's the whole adoption thing. Will everyday investors and businesses embrace this? It's still a new concept, and building trust takes time.
Right. It's not just about building the tech. It's about showing people how it works, why it's safe, why it's better. But if they can pull it off, man, the impact could be huge.
Absolutely. Tokenization could change everything. Imagine. Easier access to investments, more efficient markets, trillions of dollars unlocked that are currently just sitting there in illiquid assets. It's a big deal.
Okay, so tokenization is a long-term play. But what about the stuff that's happening right now? Like they're pushing into decentralized finance, DeFi, right? What are they doing in that space?
They're basically trying to bring traditional financial services onto the blockchain, but without all the middlemen. Think lending platforms, decentralized exchanges, all that good stuff.
So instead of going to a bank for a loan, you could borrow or lend money directly to other people on the XDC blockchain.
That's the idea. And because it's all automated and transparent, it could be way more efficient and affordable.
That's really powerful, giving people more control over their finances, cutting out the big institutions. Are they building any specific DeFi apps themselves, or are they just providing the platform for others to build on?
A little bit of both. They've already got VinPay, which lets people easily interact with those XDC-based apps, and they're developing their own solutions too. Things that leverage their strengths, speed, scalability, all that.
So they're building the foundation and also actively playing in the DeFi space. Smart move. Okay, one more thing that keeps popping up. This whole cross-chain compatibility thing. Why is that such a big deal for XDC?
Right now, the blockchain world is kind of like a bunch of separate islands. You've got all these different blockchains working in isolation, which limits what you can do. Cross-chain compatibility would let XDC connect to other big chains, like Ethereum.
So you could like seamlessly move assets or data between XDC and Ethereum.
Exactly. It would open up so many possibilities. Developers could build more powerful apps. Users could move their assets more freely. It would make the whole XDC ecosystem way more attractive.
Okay, so we've got tokenization, DeFi, cross-chain compatibility. XDC's got a lot going on. It's an ambitious roadmap for sure. But with all this innovation, does it get overly complicated, especially for, developers who are new to the XDC platform?
It's true that their hybrid model can seem a little daunting at first. It's more complex than some other blockchains, but they're working on making it easier for developers to understand and build on their platform. They're putting out tons of resources and tools.
So there's a bit of a learning curve, but they're providing the support to help people climb it.
Exactly. And the payoff could be huge. XDC offers a unique combo of speed, security, and scalability that's hard to find elsewhere.
All right, so we've talked about the competitive landscape, XDC's big plans for tokenization and DeFi, the importance of cross-chain compatibility. But let's shift gears for a minute. Let's talk about the XDC community.
The community. They're the heart and soul of any blockchain project. They're the ones who drive adoption, give feedback, and help the ecosystem grow.
So what's the XDC community like? Are they active, engaged? Do they actually care?
Oh, they're incredibly passionate. They're all over social media, online forums, you name it. And they're always willing to help newbies understand the tech and its potential. It's a really supportive group.
That's great to hear. A strong community can make or break a project like this.
Yeah.
They can spread the word, bring in new users, build a real buzz.
Absolutely. And the XDC Foundation gets it. They're actively fostering this community by organizing events, providing educational resources, supporting developers. It's a collaborative effort.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about building a movement, a shared belief in what XDC can do, and that makes me optimistic. They're not just building a platform, they're building a community around it.
Well said. It's really inspiring to see a project that gets that. They understand that a decentralized project like XDC needs a strong and engaged community to thrive. It's a partnership.
We've talked a lot about the potential benefits and all the exciting features of XDC, but gotta be realistic. Are there any red flags, any risks that investors or developers should be aware of?
That's a great question. It's important to do your due diligence before jumping into anything. One thing that stands out is their dependence on a few key partnerships. Those partnerships are valuable for sure, but what if one of them falls apart?
So it's about diversification, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right. They need to build a strong, diverse ecosystem that can thrive even if some things don't go as planned. And then there's always the risk of unexpected technical issues. No system is perfect,
True. And then there's the whole crypto market thing. It's a roller coaster ride, and even the best projects can get swept up in it.
Absolutely. Market sentiment is unpredictable, and XDC is not immune to that. But at the end of the day, they're building something real, something that solves real problems. Their focus on trade finance gives them a solid foundation, and their tech is top-notch.
So there are risks, like with any investment, but there's also a lot of potential.
Exactly. It's all about weighing the risks and rewards. But I think XDC is definitely a project worth keeping on your radar.
Well said. And on that note, stay tuned, because we'll be back to explore some of the amazing projects that are already being built on the XDC network. All right, welcome back for the final part of our XDC journey. We've talked about the tech, the team, the big ideas. Now let's see this thing in action. What are some of the real live projects and dApps that are already up and running on the XDC network?
This is where it gets really exciting, right? We can move past the theory and look at the concrete stuff, the actual applications. That's what separates the contenders from the pretenders in this space.
For sure. Remember XinPay, that browser extension that's like your passport to the XDC DeFi world?
Oh yeah, XinPay. That's a great example of what I was talking about before, that user friendliness. XDC seems to really get that, if they want mass adoption, things have to be easy to use, even for people who are totally new to blockchain.
It can't just be for the hardcore techies. It's got to be accessible to everyone. But XinPay is just one piece of the puzzle. What are some of the other standout projects in the XDC ecosystem?
Well, we've talked a lot about how XDC is laser focused on trade finance.
Right. That's their bread and butter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one project that's really making waves in that space is TradeFinex.
TradeFinex. Okay, tell me more.
They're using XDC to tokenize trade finance instruments. It's like they're taking this ancient system that's been bogged down by paperwork for centuries and dragging it, kicking and screaming, into the digital age.
It's about time.
Right. And the benefits are huge. Lower costs, more transparency, easier access for everyone, especially those small and medium businesses that have always struggled with the traditional trade finance system.
It's about leveling the playing field, giving everyone a chance to compete on the global stage. I like that. Are there any other projects that are using XDC in really cool and innovative ways?
Oh, tons. We're seeing platforms popping up for issuing and trading digital securities, decentralized exchanges where you can swap XDC and other tokens. There's even stuff happening with supply chain management and logistics.
Wow, so it's not just a one-trick pony. It's a platform that can support all sorts of different applications. That's pretty impressive. But let's zoom out for a minute. Where do you see the XDC ecosystem heading in the next few years? Big picture stuff.
If they can keep doing what they're doing, keep hitting those milestones on the roadmap, keep attracting talented developers, keep building those key partnerships, I think we could see some explosive growth. New apps, new projects, the whole ecosystem could just explode.
It's like we're witnessing the birth of something huge.
Yeah, it's kind of like the early days of the internet, when everything was new and the possibilities felt endless. It's exciting to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And speaking of being a part of it, we've talked a lot about the XDC community. What role do you see them playing in all of this?
The XDC community is one of their biggest strengths, no doubt. They're passionate, engaged, they really believe in this project. And they're the ones who are going to spread the word, bring in new users, make this thing go mainstream.
It's a grassroots movement, and that's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And the XDC Foundation gets it. They're putting a lot of effort into supporting the community, organizing events, providing resources, making sure everyone feels welcome and empowered. It's a true partnership.
Well, that's inspiring. It's not just about the tech, it's about the people, the community, the shared vision. That makes me really optimistic about XDC's future.
Me too. It's not just a platform, it's a movement.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've gone from blockchain basics to the nitty-gritty of XDC's technology, its potential, the whole ecosystem. I feel like I've learned so much about what blockchain can do, and I'm really excited to see what XDC does next.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you and our listeners. XDC is a project that's worth keeping an eye on for sure. They're tackling big challenges, building innovative solutions, and they've got this amazing community behind them.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring the world of XDC, do your own research, and never stop being curious about the power of blockchain. This is just the beginning.
The future is being built right now, and it's up to all of us to be a part of it.
Until next time, stay tuned and keep those blockchain brains buzzing.